Hello everybody, I am the Black Sigma, or you could just call me Eric, and welcome to another Zelda month video. But this one's gonna be a little different. Instead of giving myself some arbitrary challenge in these games that I hold so dearly in order to celebrate them, I'm just going to celebrate two of them with an off-the-cuff, unscripted ramble of sorts. Because I'm sure I've said it on this channel before, though I don't remember when or where. Loud traffic, gotta love it. But, I've said before that I share a birthday with the release dates of two of the most important games in this franchise. Those ones are The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Both of which released on November 21st in Japan when they initially released. So, it's strange to me that two of the biggest games in a franchise I hold so dearly, Link to the Past, the reason that Zelda had the formula it did up until Breath of the Wild, and Ocarina of Time, the one that took that formula, put it into a 3D setting and made it work beautifully. It feels... I'm not a superstitious person by any means, but it almost feels predestined that if I would share a birthday with these games, November 21st, that I would fall in love with this franchise. It's a strange coincidence, to say the least. But, yeah. So, with that being said, I thought today, when this video is being uploaded, November 20th, because it's fitting with my Zelda month schedule of being on the weekends, this birthday is a day early. 2 days early if you live in a different time zone. But the point is, I thought that I would celebrate my birthday and the game's birthday by sort of sharing my personal experiences with the games. Ocarina of Time was undoubtedly the first Zelda game I ever played. My older brother, who you may have seen on this channel before, owned a Nintendo 64 with, you know, all the classics. GoldenEye, Mario Party, Mario 64, and of course, Ocarina of Time. Is it any wonder that I fell in love with that game, playing it at the age I did? The young hero setting off as he's told he has a much greater destiny ahead of him. A boy around my age, going through trials and tribulations that are just leagues ahead of this kid's age. Like, I could imagine if I, as a child, had to fight Goma. Like, yeah, I understand, shoot it in the eye, that's a big weak point, but also that's a giant scorpion crab thing that literally births its young to attack you. It's horrifying. And yet, the young boy still has the courage to face it. And so Link sets off on his grand adventure, leaving his home behind as he finds that he has a huge role to play in this. He goes out, meets the young Princess Zelda, and she tells him of this prophetic dream of an evil man who's come to take over their land, and she hopes that the courage of this child, a child, can stand against the evil king of the desert, and Link doesn't even flinch, because he knows what he has to do. He knows he has to do the right thing, regardless of how terrifying it may be. He helps the Goron people, he helps the Zoras, he goes to the Temple of Time after Ganondorf has sieged the castle and has forced Zelda to flee. He goes to get the Master Sword, this legendary artifact that is said to have the power to banish evil. If Link picks that up, he can do what he promised, to do all the good in the world, and then it all comes crumbling down around him. For when he goes to draw the Master Sword, his spirit is held in the temple for 7 years before he can properly wield it. And as that sword at that temple acted as a gateway to the sacred realm, Ganondorf got his wish and stole the Triforce. Though it split apart, and Ganondorf only got to maintain one piece, that was enough for him to bring the world of Hyrule into ruins. In Link's best attempt to save the world, he caused its destruction. But even against this insurmountable odd, the young boy, now a man, pushes on. He still needs to help, needs to save the world. He knows what is right, and he knows he has to fight for it. He frees his home from its evil clutches. He frees the Gorons from their imprisonment. He goes... Okay, technically he doesn't help the Zoras this time. The domain is still frozen for some reason, even after the Water Temple is done. Yeah, that always kind of bothered me. Bothered a lot of people. But still, he helped. Lake Hylia, the water level was restored after it had been mysteriously drained. So at least there was that. He goes into the Shadow Temple after this horrific, dark, nightmarish creature has been released from its seal in the well. He ventures across the Gerudo Desert, Ganondorf's homeland, and here you can see a touch of Ganondorf's motivation that would later be brought up in the Wind Waker. Gerudo Desert is a harsh environment. It's a desert. The day burns, the night freezes. It's a miracle that the women are tough enough to survive there. And the one man of their race, the one who was made king due to a legend of his people, decided he didn't want that for them. Ganondorf tried to take over Hyrule merely because he wanted a better life for his people. Though that jealousy for Hyrule's prosperity would be his downfall. He started with a good motivation, but he was corrupted by the power it brought. In the end, Link may or may not have been successful, depending on whether you end up in the child timeline and adult timeline, or you end up in the defeat timeline. But the story of the Hero of Time is one of tragedy and perseverance. An important message for a child to learn. Sure, I just liked the adventure of it, fighting these big, cool-looking enemies, this giant lizard, this Chinese dragon, this water tentacle controlled by a little fleshy orb in it. Those are cool monster designs, and I loved that. And that's probably all I thought of it at the time, but it made an impact on me. Having the courage to persevere, no matter what. Link to the Past, I didn't get to play until much, much later in my life. But I still know the impact it had, for, as I said earlier, it was the game that truly cemented the formula that would go to be the one the franchise was known for all the way up until Breath of the Wild. Because in the original Zelda game, there were elements of use item to progress, but it wasn't the same go to a dungeon, you get an item, you can use it to defeat the boss and progress to the next dungeon. There wasn't that level of cause and effect, I suppose. And Link to the Past is responsible for that formula, undoubtedly. But things could have been different. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, was a lot closer to a traditional RPG. If the popularity of Link to the Past hadn't been what it was, it's possible this franchise would have gone in a completely different direction. It's possible that Zelda would be a traditional JRPG. And then it wouldn't be the same. I honestly probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I don't play a lot of JRPGs. I'm not saying there's ones I don't enjoy, like, I know I've gotten used to the genre now, I enjoy it now, but I would never have picked up a JRPG as a kid. There's no way I would have touched The Legend of Zelda if it was a turn-based combat system, or if just these other elements like leveling up, I don't know. Something about the way Zelda 2 handled things. Maybe I would have enjoyed that, but the further it leans into being an RPG, the worse Zelda gets. Because, honestly, Zelda is an RPG. You play the role of Link. But it's not a traditional RPG. It is an adventure game. A defining staple of the adventure genre that spawned billions of carbon copies. And that's the genre I fell in love with. That's basically my favorite kind of video game at all, is an open air or open world adventure. And that wouldn't have happened without Link to the Past. And Ocarina of Time transforming what Link to the Past set up for it. 2 games that heavily influenced my favorite franchise, released on the same date as I was born. November 21st. Though neither of them released the same year I was born, the fact is that both of them released on the same day. A strange coincidence. But, well, if the games have anything to say about it, maybe it was destiny. Well, I've said what I've wanted to about these legendary experiences. Happy birthday to them. And to me. Feels weird to wish myself a happy birthday, but you get the point. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.